back to Katrina's Creations Knitting Podcast. I'm glad you stopped by. If you're a first-time viewer, please subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. As you can tell, I sound a little bit better than I did last week. I'm still getting over whatever it was, but I am feeling better. I have a lot to cover in the podcast today, so hopefully I won't talk too fast. I get excited and I talk too quick. So with that, I will get started. First, I'll tell you about this scarf that I'm wearing. This is done in Tunisian knit, or Tunisian crochet. And I've talked about getting tendonitis from doing Tunisian crochet. This would be the project that did it. It is actually a silk, but you'd never know it. It's not shiny. It's getting softer the more I wear it. But yeah, it feels more like a cotton, but it is a raw silk. It is comfortable. You know, it's not like it's itchy or uncomfortable or scratchy or anything. It's just not as soft as you would expect for silk. So that is this project. And I don't know what the stitch is with this. The book that I'm learning to do Tunisian crochet just calls it a stitch, and I think this was stitch number 7. So with that, I will show you the baby blanket that I've been working on, which is also done in Tunisian crochet. I am using Karen Jumbo yarn. So as you can see, it is like all different colors. We have a new grandson. He's 2 weeks old yesterday, and we will be going out to see them in a few weeks, so it's imperative that I finish this project. I have gotten a lot of progress. Last week when I filmed, you can see my stitch marker right here. So last week I was about 6 inches. Now I am about 10 inches further, so it's a total of about 16 inches right now. It's not your eyes. This is like a rhombus shape. This pattern is like X's and O's, and I think because everything is kind of skewed a little to the side, it is also skewing the stitches, because I've counted the number of stitches. I can follow the row all the way down. I haven't added or decreased anything. I think when I block it, it will stretch back out to what it's supposed to be, and I will be putting an edging on it anyway, just because I'm not a real neat crocheter. This isn't my strong point. I'm more of a knitter, but I wanted to learn something new. So there is the baby Afghan. I'm probably about halfway done at this point. So I hope to get this done in the next couple of weeks. So that is that project that I have been working on. I also have been working on the cable cardigan. It's called the Barton Cardigan. It is from this book called Knitting Plus. The person that apparently compiled the book is Lisa Schroyer. The pattern itself is called the Barton Cardigan, and it is by Marlena Bird. And this is what the pattern looks like. You can see the cables that are in it. The cables go all the way around. It's composed of 4 charts. It's a front, a left side, a gusset, a back, the gusset again, and then the right side. You knit it in the round with steeking stitches up the center until you get to the arms, and then it splits, and then you do the arms off of there once you've connected the shoulders, and the steeked stitches you cut up and then you turn under. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And last week I had ripped it all out and started over again because I misread what the needles called for. They called for 3.25. I thought it said 3.75, which I didn't have, so I upped it to a 4. Yeah, not one of my smarter moves. And so I was knitting a tent. It was huge. It was 407 stitches all the way around. But I did like the way the stitches looked. I don't want a dense sweater. I like the way the stitches look with the size 4 needles. So I cut the pattern size down. So it is now 281 stitches all the way around. And I have the ribbing completed. I'm getting ready to actually get into the body. I've just done the increases that go around before I start the gussets and the actual cable. That will be on the next row. So here you can see it. These are lace panels, and each of these little straight sections here are cables. So there'll be a cable here, a little border, a cable, lace, cable, border, cable, and it goes like that all the way around. So there's probably 30 some cables to go all the way around it. So it is going to be a challenge, but I'm liking it so far. I'm liking this yarn a little bit more. The further I'm knitting with it, the softer it's feeling. I can still feel some of the lanolin. It is a wool blend, but I can still feel lanolin because when I've handled it, I can feel the kind of waxiness on my hands. So I do know that it does have some in it, but there's still it's kind of a wool burlappy type of smell, so I'm hoping that scent will wash out. It is like an oatmeal kind of color. It's showing up fairly good. It's, you know, it's a tannish oatmeal type of color. So I've been working on that. Then I started my Cozy Memories blanket. I had showed you last week, I think I had 4 blocks done. I ripped out all 4 of those blocks. I now am up to 7. I'll explain why in a minute. I now have 7. I'm starting on the 8th block. It's on the needles right now. Here we go. The reason I tore it out, and this looks white. This isn't. This is lime green. There you go. You can see it a little bit better. It's lime green. The reason I tore them out was I started realizing I was doing, when you do a mitered box stitch here, this particular pattern of the mitered square called for 20 across and 20 down with one stitch that becomes your decrease that forms the miter itself. So initially it called for 41 total stitches. And I realized that if I cut it down by just a couple of rows, I could get 2 full squares out of each little mini that I had. So in order to make the yarn go further, and so that I didn't have a bunch of like 3/4 finished squares that I was going to have to add something to, I went back and I tore them out and I switched them down to 17 rows instead of 20. So I have 17 down, 17 across, and 1 for the miter. So I went from 41 stitches to 35, which doesn't sound like much, but when you consider these rows here and you're cutting 3 of them out, it's making a big difference. So now I should be able to get 2 squares out of every mini, so I won't be wasting any yarn. So, and that's my whole goal, is to use most of these minis up. I don't want a lot of little teeny wee strings left over. So this has been my car and like purse knitting. So I tend to fidget if I sit in a meeting with nothing to do. So I was like frantically knitting the other day at a meeting. I actually finished one of the squares during the first part of the meeting, and then sat there and fiddled for the next meeting afterwards. Then I went to knit night. Now I've missed the last 2 knit nights. I went on Tuesday night to it. Knit nights can be dangerous for yarn buying. They really can. I took my Drakenfels, which I've been working on, and I am at the very last section of striping before it goes back into the solid colors again. And the only time I worked on this week was at knit night, so I didn't get as much done. So I can get this untangled to show you. There's where I left off last week, was right here, and I knitted here. So this is my Drakenfels so far. So I was busy knitting that, thinking, okay, I've got 4 things on the needles. I don't need anything else. And then I found out in the 2 weeks that I was gone that several of the ladies are doing a cowl together. And they're making it's called a scarf, but it's more like a shawlette. It's not a full shawl size, but it's bigger than a scarf. And it's asymmetrical, and it's got stripes, and it's got garter stitch, and it's got a picot edging, and it's got lace, and I'm a sucker for lace. And I sat there watching, and everybody else's was about this big, and I was like, okay, not even tempted. I'm just seeing stripes. I can do that. I'm not, you know, I don't need to get anything. And then Bonnie pulled out hers, and hers was finished. And when I saw hers, I went, oh, that's really, really pretty. And I mean, hers is in light gray and charcoal and navy blue, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she's done a beautiful job. So I just looked at her and I said, point the way to the yarn. So she was like, oh, I'll come back with you. So she went back with me, and the lady that owns the yarn store was back there as well, and all three of us were looking through, and I was like drooling through the yarn. Now, you know what colors I tend to always gravitate to, so I'll give you two guesses what I picked. If you guessed purple, you guessed right. First, let me show you the shawl that they're doing. It's called Shades of Wicklow Scarf by Martina Monroe. It is a paid-for pattern, and I will show you a picture. Now, the picture, the scarf is done also in some of my favorite colors, navy blue, light blue, and yellow. I don't know if it will show up real well in the picture or not. But you can see the yellow picot edging, the light blue section where it's solid, that is all lace stitch. And then there's a bunch of striping, and all the solid sections are lacy. So, yeah. I'll show you what I picked. It calls for Ella Rae Cozy Alpaca Chunky. So my two solid colors I did in that. My variegated yarn, I bought Queensland Collection Brisbane, and the colorway, it doesn't even have a name, it just says 09. It's a 100% superwash, the other's a baby alpaca. So here are the colors I picked in the solids. There's this light purple, and this, I don't have much of it because I've got to go skein the rest of it up. This dark purple, so these two together. And then my variegated is purples, and there's some blues, and some yellow, and some pink. So, yeah, there's the three together. This one looks gray, but it's not. It's kind of a grape kind of color. And this is an amethyst. So it's really pretty. And I will show you so far what I have knitted on it. The first section is striped. This is the variegated and the amethyst color. It's looking navy blue in the picture, but it is amethyst and the variegated. So that's where I'm at there. And both the baby Afghan and this shawl have to be done by the end of the month. So those are my intense knitting that I'm working on right now. Now, some other things that I have done. I have my Koolaid yarn. I plied it together, and it's a really messy skein here, but I plied it together and I just have it skeined up. I haven't figured out what the yardage is. The grams on it were 69. It was 69 grams. So I have to figure the yardage up with it. I measured it. I just need to sit down and calculate it. So there it is. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. It depends on when I figure out the yardage. I have an idea of what I might do. My granddaughter likes fingerless mitts, but there's also this really cute top that I've seen. It's kind of like a little cami, and this would be my oldest granddaughter. So that might be what this turns into, but it depends if there's enough yardage for it. But it's really soft, and I know she likes fingerless mitts, so either way, it might be one of those. So I'm not sure, but that's an idea for it at this point. And I just double plied it. I didn't triple ply it. I could have, but it's still very, it was lace weight to begin with, and it's still probably fingering. I mean, it's not a sock weight by any stretch of the imagination, and I just lightly plied it because I didn't want it to over twist, so it's just barely twisted together. Now I'm going to give you my book review, and then I'm going to ask for some advice. Before we do our craft room tour, I do have a craft room tour. That's a finished object too. I finished that this week. But the book this week is It's not yarn related at all, but it's a cute book. It's a cozy mystery. It's called Town in a Blueberry Jam. This is the first in the series. The author is B.B. Haywood, and it's about a lady. She lives, this takes place in Maine, which is like one of my favorite states. So I like to read things about Maine. So this takes place in this fictional town of Cape Williston. It's based off of like the South Portland area. It's based on that area around the Portland Headlight. There's a lighthouse in here that sounds very much like the Portland Headlight. So, yeah, it is cute. And if I go online and kind of Google the real town that it's based on, you can see a lot of the similarities, even down to the newspaper office. So the main character in the book is named Candy. It's Candy Holiday is her last name. And she goes home, I think she lived in New York or whatever. She goes back home to help her father run a blueberry farm in this little town. And you meet all the crazy characters in the town. And they're having a blueberry queen, and the blueberry queen ends up dead. And so that's what starts the mystery and the investigation. And it's just cute. It's kind of silly. There's one character in here, and I cannot remember his name, but anyway, he thinks he becomes invisible. So the newspaper reports every month on how many times he's actually been visible and invisible, and it's just got quirky characters, and it's funny, and it's just a cute light read. So it's a nice, enjoyable one. I think there's about 6 or 7 in the series, but like I said, this is the first one. It's Town in a Blueberry Jam. And also, if you go onto my Pinterest page, in the beginning opening, you saw how to contact or how to see me on Facebook and Pinterest and Etsy and Ravelry. If you go on my Pinterest page, you'll see a reading list, and if you look on the reading list, you'll see all the different cozy mysteries that I like to read. That's my way of keeping track of what I've read, is when I finish reading it, I stick it on my board, and that way I don't have to keep a written list anywhere. So, that's the book. Now here comes the question of the week. And please leave a comment in the comments section below, because I really don't know what to do with this. I knitted the world's ugliest quilt, or a cape, years and years and years ago. When I was, we were in the hospital waiting for the birth of my first grandchild, my granddaughter, which would be almost 14 years ago. I had all this hand-spun wool, and I knitted it and decided I was going to make a cape. Now, I steeped where the armholes are, so it's not like I can unravel this. But it was done in white. I should have kept it white. It was like a winter white. But I thought, oh no, it'll show all the dirt, so I'm going to dye it black, because black will go with everything and it won't show any dirt, and since it's wool, I won't have to worry about trying to keep it clean. So, I dyed it black. Does that look black to you? No, it's brown and purple. I have no clue how that happened. I mean, this was dyed years ago, and when in the course of doing all this, it felted, so it really can't be ripped apart. So it's pilled like crazy, and it's speckled. I don't know how. It was the same type of wool all the way around, except for the collar. The collar was the only thing that was a different type of wool, and it completely turned out purple. But it's ugly, and it must weigh 10 pounds. I mean, you couldn't wear it. It'd knock you over. I mean, it was just make you slump shoulder trying to wear it. It is heavy, and it's brown and purple. I mean, it's just awful. So I have no clue what to do. Part of me just says throw it out, but then it's like I spent so much time spinning the wool and knitting this, and you know, it wasn't cheap. There was a lot of wool that went into this thing. I mean, it's not small. It's good sized. And like I said, it weighs a ton. So if you have any ideas or suggestions of what I could do to this thing, please put them in the comments below. Just let me know. The only thing I have come up with to do with this is to make them into oven mitts or pot holders. So if you have other suggestions, please put them in the comments. I would love any ideas I could get. And I really do enjoy when you guys comment. I've had conversations back and forth with several of you, and I really do enjoy it. It's like having our own little knitting circle, you know, right here on the podcast. So, and I do try to reply to everybody. So, yeah, I do enjoy your comments, and I love reading them. And I was excited right before I did this podcast. I looked and I have topped 80. I'm at 81 subscribers. So that's really exciting as well. So with no further ado, I'm going to do my craft room tour, and I'm going to insert it at the end of this video. And if you enjoy it, click the like button. And like I said in the beginning, if you're a new viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'd love to see you come back again. Thanks a lot. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Okay, here's the craft room. And as you come in the door, there's the bed. Because like I said, I share it with a guest bedroom. And here is my sewing machine. And this index below here, I keep thread in. And I have it all labeled by color. It just makes it easier to see things. And over here is my yarn winder and my Swift. And then these shelves or drawers coming down here have my sewing supplies, like different projects I'm working on and different embellishments I'm going to use with my sweaters that I'm making. Different elastics, and most of these I got at an auction, including the drawers themselves. The spools of thread, it looks like I've got lots of spools of thread. I really don't sew all that much, but when my grandmother passed away, no one else did a whole lot of sewing, and so I inherited them. And a lot of them are actually on wooden spools, so I saved the wooden spools. And then this sewing table was my grandmother's. This sitting here that you're seeing is what I put my yarn in, so it doesn't roll around the car. And then here, and this light, the lighting's not good, but the top drawer there is just sewing parts that go to my sewing machine, and the bottom is my little sewing kit that I keep on hand for like putting buttons on and things like that. Now I'll take you over to my closet. And here's where I have gift wrap on the door. And I think this container here was actually meant for like holding your plastic wrap and wax paper and things. So because the wrapping paper kept falling through, so I actually just stuck this on from the dollar store at the bottom, and it holds the gift wrap from falling through. And over here, we'll take it to the top. And the top basket up here just has projects in it that I'm not real happy with that I might rip out. Then I have fabric. And then I have the thing I'm using for blocking boards. These actually I bought at Ollie's for I think $2.99. I get cute little duckies on them and it's a children's poster thing, if you can. They're called puzzle mats, but it's the same material that they use for blocking boards. So I bought it for $2.99 and I'm going to try it out because I should still be able to, it's spongy enough I should be able to stick pins in it for blocking, but it doesn't cost anything near the cost of the regular blocking boards would cost. Then I have drawers here, and again these drawers were purchased at an auction, and I have my Etsy supplies in these. I have cross stitch here, which I really don't do much cross stitch anymore, but it's here if I want it. I have wrapping paper, like wrapping supplies like tissue paper and little things like that in here. I have stencils in here. Again, I don't do much stenciling. I got rid of a lot of stencils, but I have some that were my favorites that I've kept in here. And then up here is novelty and baby yarn. So that I put in there. Then I have these off to the side. I think I've used them twice. I'm not much of a loom knitter. I tend to just like my circulars. This is my knitting bag over here. My mother bought me this for Christmas, and it's got my tatting in it. It's got the big needles. It has my regular knitting needles are in here. My straight needles are in the middle here. And to be honest, I actually got rid of a lot of my straight needles when I did the reorganizing. I just kept my smaller straight needles and my Tunisian crochet hooks because I just found I wasn't using the real long straight ones at all. These here are projects that they are next in line for me to start on. Over here. And then I have the fuzzy stuff, the filler, poly filler. And below here I got this at auction also. These are the they're embroidery floss, what you make doilies out of. And I got, I think, 17 balls of it. I paid about $1 per ball for it, and so they're in here. At the time I was doing more doily knitting than I am now, so that's in there. It's in all different types of colors. Below that I have my sewing patterns and my cross stitch thread. Like I said, I don't do much cross stitch, but when I do, it's there. And then the bottom I have paint, and right next to it, the pink here is my jewelry making supplies. So when I make stitch markers and things like that, that's what I use. And again, this drawer unit also came from an auction. And I just have small boxes and floral supplies, calligraphy stuff, and I'm not much of a scrapbooker. People have given me stuff over the years, and so that's in there. And the very bottom holds my glue gun and the glue sticks that go to it. So that is my craft closet. And now I will walk you around to my yarn setup. And it is right over here. Sorry, I got caught on the thread. And up top here, I have some sheep, several different sheep. Years ago, I had a secret pal at church who found out I liked sheep, and I got all kinds of things with sheep. So I have culled the herd a little bit, but I've still got lots of sheep. I have a lot of my knitting and crochet instruction books. I use this folder here. It's an accordion pleated folder, and it has dividers inside, and my paper patterns that like I get off of Ravelry or I've gotten out of books and things like that. I have them separated in here like by sweater, shawl, edgings, things like that. I have them sorted. So then I have some other books along here. These are all my books on Maine because, like I said, I love Maine, so I've got some books on that. Then my yarn itself, these are my lace weight yarns over here. And then these are like a sock weight yarn, and they are really, really soft. They snag. I actually have a teal blue in this as well. It's not made anymore. I bought it at a clearance sale. It's really, really soft, but it does snag a lot. You've got to really make sure your hands are smooth when you try to use it. Here's some more of my sock weight yarn. And then down here are the wool combs that I bought when I was up in New England and Rhode Island this past winter, or past summer. It's winter now. In fact, it was sleeting earlier. And then these are my worsted weights over here. And then down in this bottom, there's more of my little sheep and a little shepherdess. And here's my jar that my, these are different spools of thread from my grandmother. So as I empty out one, I throw them in here. Just because I think they're neat. Not that I know what I'm going to do with them, but I just think they're neat. And then these are just some odds and ends that are rolled up in balls, but they wouldn't stay on the shelf, so I put them in there. So then over to the side here, I have all of the fleece that I'm working on, and this is actually flax here. And so these are all my bundles of fleece that I'm hopefully going to be spinning up. I have some downstairs that I'm going to work with as well. My spinning wheel and my loom are downstairs just because they're just too much to transport up and down the stairs all the time. My loom is actually a 4-harness tabletop, but it weighs about 35 pounds. So my husband actually built a cart with wheels, and I roll it into a closet downstairs, and I can roll it out when I need it. And he got it right at the right height and put a shelf on it for me so I can put my weaving supplies as well. So that is the end of the craft tour. Oh, I will show you one thing. I told you I used to cross stitch. This is a pattern I cross stitched years ago. If you look close, you can see where it's spliced here and here. And what happened is I had a magazine that had this pattern in it. So I was working on this center section, and then a lady at church said, "Oh, did you know that the magazine the month before and the month after had the other parts to it?" And I said, "No, thank you for sharing." So she gave them to me, and so I actually spliced those pieces in. It's a very, very detailed, it's an Amish farm, but it is a very detailed, I mean, even the sky is stitched, so there's no plain material anywhere. Every single thing on there has stitches on it. It took me forever. I don't know what I'd do to ever have to clean this. If I did, I guess just dust it or something. But that was my biggest attempt at cross stitch, and after I did that, I didn't want to do it again for a while. So that is the end of my craft room tour. And thank you so much for joining me. And like I said, I will see you again next week. And I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.